LTCB.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going on? What is going on? Got my man Lorenzo Alexander in the building with me again today. This is the Pressure Front Podcast. If you do not know, Zoe, the Bills, we took an ugly L this week. It's okay. It's okay. We rebound.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, in the moment and until you're able to go out there and play again, that salty taste is going to be in your mouth all week. Obviously, as players, as coaches, as the organization, but especially as fans, because you're not actually out there able to compete. So it's even worse because you can't even control it, I think, as a fan sometimes. But yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I never thought this team would go 16-0. Obviously, playing a team like the Titans, they're always physical. The last 3 years we've always played them tough. It's always been tight games, real contentious, real physical type games, and they end up just winning this one. That's what it comes down to. 3 turnovers, providing short fields. The lack of ability to really make Tannehill hold the ball, so mental errors, allowing him to get out and get athletic with his legs. Obviously having Trey not play didn't help either. And so with all those things, you're not going to be able to win. There's too many big plays, too many explosion plays. The things that the Bills have been doing to opponents was really given to them. And they never were able to right the ship and never were able to get over that slow start. And so this is a learning moment because every year you got to learn. Obviously, you have veterans on those teams, but every year you kind of collectively as a team have to relearn these moments, come together, get back to work, because you can't soak too long because now you got the Kansas City Chiefs Monday Night Football, and you got to go out there and show out.
Right. You know what? You mentioned every week on this show, you mentioned the word turnovers and that the Bills have to win the turnover battle. And this is obviously, I think, the first week that we actually lost the turnover battle. How damning are turnovers in the NFL, especially against a good team like the Titans?
Yeah, I'm not a huge analytical guy, but there are certain analytics in football that are equate to wins at a high percentage, and turnovers are probably one of the bigger ones of any other stat in football. There's a +1, a +2, and a +3 percentage, and each one you go up, they increase exponentially. And so when you are a -3 in a game, your chances of losing that game is probably like 70 or 80%.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, some of these turnovers were just kind of fluky. I mean, obviously, the Andre Roberts turnover came when the game was honestly extremely low. It was just a guy trying to make a play at the end of a ball game. You're down by 19 points. But obviously,
but you don't want to have that. And to your point on that play, that's why you have to continue to play hard, because that was a guy that should have probably been blocked. Coming in, taking a shot on a guy, which was a clean hit, not about that, but that's why it takes all 11 guys, because that's a shot that Dre shouldn't be taking like that. Not that he shouldn't hold on to the ball, but that's why you can never, no matter what the score is, no matter if you're going to win or lose, you got to do your job every single play, because you never want to give up a turnover like that or a shot on your guy like that, especially at the end of a game.
Now, I guess it brings me to my next question. When you're in a game like that, and obviously this game was out of hand right after halftime, how important is it to really just keep executing? Because like I said, obviously I've heard coaches say and other people say that you want to take something positive into your next football game. So how important is that aspect to, keep executing?
I think it's very important, because you never want to create bad habits. You never want to get into a rhythm of doing things the wrong way. And so I think that's a sign of a good team when you're able to, even though when the game is over and out of hand, you can at least get back to some basics and do some of the fundamentals right. And I've been a part of those games where it never happens in a game, and that was kind of similar, maybe like this one, where you're going to lose, but you still can't tackle for whatever reason. I mean, they're running the ball, but you still can't wrap guys up and get them on the ground. As we even saw that last play where I think Henry got out and scored a late touchdown where they were driving down. But those are the things that you want to try to eliminate to at least build some type of momentum. And I don't know how much momentum you're going to take, but at least finish on a good note where, okay, I've completed some passes, or we're fitting our gaps right. We're able to get back to who we were, even though the game wasn't out, just to kind of have some rhythm leaving that game. But this game just wasn't played well from start to finish. And it wasn't like it was every single play, which I think sometimes you feel like, oh, everybody played bad. It just seemed like it was a different guy in a different place, especially defense. When I rewatched that, whether it's a guy losing contain, a guy not communicating right on the back end, picking up some plays, a guy not in their right gap versus the run, just things here and there that a lot of times guys cover you up, but in this game it didn't happen. And I think just the physicality of this game, the Titans set that tone and maintained that dominance throughout the game. And so I know these guys are a prideful group, and this week they'll come out and definitely going to have to establish themselves as far as being the aggressors, as far as dishing out the punishment, setting the tone physically, setting that line of scrimmage, and really executing in that process to start fast versus the Kansas City Chiefs, which you have to do versus a team like this.
Speaking of finishing, there was a key moment at the end of this game, I thought, that highlighted who Josh Allen is as a player and who Josh Allen continues to become as a leader. And this is something that we talked on the show about plenty of times already. Now, even down, he went to everybody on his team or on the sideline, especially his defensive players, and he dapped them all up.
Right.
As a defensive player, after a game like this, where you pretty much just got pretty much mauled, how important, and how as a defensive player, how do you look at your quarterback as a leader when he comes and does that? Say, hey, pick it up, get your head up, we're all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's accountability, I think, more so than anything. I think he was more thanking them for just staying in there fighting, knowing that he didn't put them in the most advantageous spot to go out there and win a game, having those short fields. And I think the biggest thing as a defender, he's like, man, thank you. Just going out there fighting. Appreciate you guys. Hey, we're going to get this thing right next week. You always appreciate, because he realizes that obviously he carries the burden as the quarterback, as the leader, and as one of his teammates, you appreciate him, even though it's not all on him. It's always a collective team effort that he's gonna stand up and say, hey, it's on me. I got to be better, and appreciate you guys fighting today. But next week, I'm gonna give us a better chance of winning the game.
Yeah. I thought the Bills this is probably the first time this year I thought they looked kind of mentally unprepared for this game. And to me, it's obviously I don't know the Titans are a very good football team. I don't want to take anything away from Tennessee.
Right. Yeah.
That's been a very good football team for the last couple of years. And I think they're up there with Buffalo, with Kansas City, with Baltimore. But how difficult do you think it was when these guys mentally trying to prepare for possibly 2 games? Because we spoke on this last week.
Yeah, it's unconventional. I mean, it's definitely out of the norm. It's definitely not part of your usual routine, but you're professional and you have to be able to adapt, especially like in this 2020 COVID year, to things that aren't traditional, just as the Tennessee Titans had to do with only, I think, having one, practice at their facility over the last couple of weeks. And so they came out and they executed well, and it really didn't look like they had missed anything. And so as professionals, you have to do it. Now, did it come into play? It may have, if you were starting to install for Kansas City, because you may have played them if the game got canceled. And could have guys may have busted some plays here and there because they had Kansas City Chiefs stuff on their mind. Maybe, but at the end of the day, if I was just still in that locker room and knowing those guys, you don't make excuses. You're a professional. You have to go out there and execute the call that is made. Maybe you're not as in tune as far as all the sets and anticipating certain plays, but some of the mental errors and some of those things are unexcusable no matter what the situation is, because you are a pro. Those guys hold themselves at a high standard. And at the end of the day, they didn't go out and perform. Hey, we didn't. Hey, let's jump back on the get back on our schedule, get back to who we are, and put, and just reestablish our standard. And I mean, I think that's the biggest thing you got to do as a team. You can't worry about all the noise and what people think you are. I'm even on Twitter, and I would love to get your opinion on this. As you put my man, it looks like Tremaine, or it might even be Josh Norman, or I can't tell with the Braves. It looks like Josh. They go Tremaine. He needs to change his position. It's crazy how when you lose a game, it's we got to do all these different things. Tremaine is not a natural inside linebacker. Let's move him back to outside linebacker like he was in college. Just because you lose a game. And has he struggled some early this year? Yeah, but he's been injured as well. And so he hasn't been quite himself. But we forget who he was and who he still is and who he will be as he gets healthy. And as I rewatch the game like that, and that's why I think it's so important that you got to take emotion out of some of your commentary and your critiques of a team. And I know as a fan, that's really hard. Given fanatic, you crazy, you get emotionally involved in the game, but you have to step back, really evaluate the tape and see what really happened and how the game unfolded, and then make your critiques from there. And everybody doesn't have that ability, obviously, to do that. And so, but that's just my point. You can't panic in these situations. You just get back to your foundation. You don't change a whole bunch of stuff, because what this defense has done and what this team has done is really built a culture, a foundation over the last years. And because you come out and don't play well one game, if you have to blow things up, if you have to change guys' positions, if you have to do things that are drastic in that manner, then what you've been doing all along really didn't make any sense, because your foundation is who you are no matter what goes on. So you just get back to that, and I think these guys will be fine. And speaking of Tremaine, I think he's done really well, especially playing through this shoulder injury. I'm not quite sure how much is bothering him, but when I went back and watched, he was striking guys. Was it perfect all the time? No, and it never is, because you're dealing with professional athletes, things moving in front of you. But the guy was flying around, getting off blocks, playing downhill, fitting with passes. And so it's just disheartening sometimes, especially have been in the locker room where you just hear certain things where, we got to do all these drastic things. We got to shift him. He needs to play this, do that. No, just go back to work, see where you made your mistakes, grow from it, and continue to get healthy. Hopefully Matt will be back at some possible. Hopefully get Tre'Davious back, which was probably one of the biggest pieces that was missing because he probably would have followed around A.J. Brown, who had a great game. And when you're missing your top tier guys that you count on of that sort, it's hard to play with guys and play up to your standard, And so that's what I want to say. This is not I don't think this is like a sign. This isn't a trend. This was a bad game that happens throughout the NFL, as we saw with some team like the Kansas City Chiefs and the Ravens, over the last couple of weeks. They haven't played lights out because it's hard to do it every single week. Right. You would like it, but it's hard to do. And so the biggest thing is being resilient and getting back to basics.
Well, I mean, as far as Tremaine goes, I feel like I hear fans clamoring, and you almost think that the team was not 4-1. The way they're going now, you almost feel like we'll be 1-4 or 2-2 or 2-3 or something of that sort. But I mean, he definitely looked a little bit healthier last game to me. He definitely looked more confident in his abilities. He looked a little timid the last week, and I think that's natural for a young player who got hurt, as you spoke on the show before. He looked fine to me, but obviously, Matt Milano was his partner in crime. There's a connection there. That's who you're used to playing with. He's not there. And obviously Tennessee is no slouch of a football team. And so we can't take anything away from that team across the field. And
they were a playoff team, beat the Ravens.
They were one game from the Super Bowl last year. Pretty much one good half away from the Super Bowl. I thought they came out and they did what we thought they were going to do. They tried to run the ball early. I thought the Bills did a hell of a job on Derrick Henry in that ball game.
Yeah, they actually did. I mean, I think with the running backs, they only average like 3.1 yards a carry, and that's what you try to hold teams to, under 3.3. What really hurt them was, obviously Tannehill's ability to get out of the pocket and scramble. That pushed him. I think he was averaging like 10 yards a carry, just because of when he got out and scrambled, there were some big plays that happened. And so, some of that was, mental error. Some of that was the line not working together. And it happens. And because of the way the game went, they never were able to overcome it throughout it. But, even kind of speaking to like the sacks as well, I've had a couple people reach out to me in that regard. And I thought initially the first half, the Bills defensive line was getting to them. They were hitting Tannehill, even kind of throughout the game. But anytime a quarterback gets to his back step and is throwing, like as we see in this right here, which was happening quite a bit, and I know this was more of a quick game, 3-step drop, it's hard to get to a guy. You may hit him, you may, run into him kind of late or whatever, and it may look like, but you're never going to get there when a guy is 1, 2, 3, boom, hits the back foot, throw. Even a 5-step drop in shotgun, 1, 2, 3, boom, throw. If you beat a guy clean, you rarely are going to sack him. He's either going to throw a bad ball or something like that when he's throwing on that rhythm. And that's why it's a complementary thing when we think about sacks a lot of times. It's coverage plus pressure. Pressure plus coverage. However you want to look at it, depending on where you're at. Your defensive line room, onus on us. We got to put pressure. You in the DB room, onus on us. We got to lock down our guys. And that synergy never happened because when the guys on the back end did lock them down, those were the times where they didn't win their one-on-ones up front. And so you have to be working together in that regard. And so you have to have guys win either way when those situations happen. And just the way the game played out, they never were in sync collectively front to back when those opportunities came about.
How, I don't want to say disheartening, but how taxing is that when a quarterback is getting the ball to a defender and to a defender coming after him, he's getting out in 3 seconds?
It's frustrating as a defensive line because you could beat a guy. A couple of times guys were beating guys clean. Whoop, and you just get a hit. You're like, man, I use my best move just to hit him, not even to sack him, you know what I mean? And then because those times really repeat themselves because O-linemen in this league and just protections and white guys work, you seldomly going to beat a guy clean over and over and over again. You may get him clean once, and then the rest of your sacks you got to really work for. A guy got to be holding the ball. You maybe win late. Maybe a guy runs around into you, somebody else beats him, and he kind of falls into your pocket. But beating a guy clean, even the best guys like Von Miller and Khalil and Chandler Jones, when you think of the guys that Aaron Donald, it's rare that they just beat guys clean all game and just win clean and get to the quarterback. That's why you need that complementary football. And so when the times that the Bills D-line did beat them and hit he was just throwing on his back foot. I mean, even that first touchdown to A.J. Brown, I want to say it might have been Jerry beat the left tackle with the inside move and hit him, but he threw it as he hit him. I mean, there's nothing you could do to get there any quicker from Jerry's perspective. And so, it's just a game that didn't really ever work in their favor. And then when those opportunities came, Tannehill was doing a great job, and that's what a veteran quarterbacks do, is getting the ball out of his hands, understanding where he wants to go with it on a fairly quickly basis, consistently throughout a game.
Yeah, it's definitely kudos to Tennessee and the way they play it. Like I said, this is a team that Buffalo may see down the line again.
I think they will.
I remember after the Baltimore loss last year, it was specifically you said in your press conference, this is a team that we may see again, and we'll be ready for them.
Yeah. If we could have beat Houston, I think we would have saw them. But, it's going to be a similar situation this year where they probably will end up seeing, I got to see how the season ends up working out. But this is a potential football team that they can't see again just because the way they're built, how good they are, veteran leadership, great coach. And so, for me, and I know some of the guys, I talked to a couple of guys today, I was like, hey, you're going to see these guys again. Here are a couple of tidbits that you can take in the next game. I don't know if the coaches gave them those points or not, but when you see these guys again, just, write them in your notes. And so when you see these plays, because they're going to attack them probably similar ways because it worked before. They may have a couple of new wrinkles, but especially in the running game and some of those things, play action passes you want to set up again, they're going to repeat to see if you corrected the issue. Or do you remember what we did to you last time? And so just trying to help guys put those things in their memory breaks, make sure they jot it down. Or if they see a team that wants to attack them similar ways, because this is a copycat league, you had some issues here, some play action passes they like. Here goes some route concepts that they like that the Bills defense struggled with. And so until you stop it, teams are copycatting. And so you can look forward to Kansas City Chiefs to maybe have some of those principles this week as well, and try to take advantage of them in the red zone especially.
Well, hopefully we return healthy this week. Like I said, Kansas City Chiefs, you need all hands on deck, man. There's no doubt about it. All hands on deck. One of the things I wanted to take from this Tennessee game, and then we'll move on, is I wanted to talk about the play of Cam Lewis, who I thought did a hell of a job in his first start. I thought Tyrell Dotson had another really good showing for the linebacker, and this is a guy that you've been praising in his work ethic and his mental aspect of the game.
Yep.
And also TJ Yeldon.
TJ played well too. Well.
It's really nice to have TJ Yeldon as your third back, because for some teams, for a lot of teams in the league, TJ Yeldon is a number two or a scat or a split in time back for a lot of teams in the league.
Third downs, right? Yeah. All those guys. And it talks about the depth of this team and the job that Brandon and Sean have done as far as trying to build depth. And when guys go down and get hurt, you have some guys that can come in there and get the job done. And so TJ is a vet, and so it's no surprise with him. With the younger players, it's always about continuing to evolve your game, because the more film that you put on tape, people are able to study you, break you down, and then attack you. And so you can have a great game one week, and then next week they try to attack you because, okay, this dude think he's feeling himself. Let's attack him and put some pressure on him. And how do you do now? Now that we're attacking you, and now that you also have an expectation that you set in the first time you played. So how do you continue to stack games with that same standard that you started, and then also improve as teams continue to attack you and try to design plays to exploit you? But to your point with Cam, I thought he did a great job. A couple of times they were trying to do some crack, replace, and make him tackle, and he came up and made some hell of a tackles, solo tackles, turned the ball back in a couple of times as well. And I really love the way he's thrown his body around. But he's always been a very mature guy, always humble and learning, and always working while he waits. So it didn't surprise me that he came out and had a good showing. And by the way he played, he'll probably continue to get, more opportunities to get out there on the football field now that the coaches understand, much like Tyrell when he showed. Now he's getting a lot more play. He's kind of risen up that depth chart a little bit with the absence of Matt Milano and getting a significant amount of snaps. And he's been a guy that's continued to evolve, continue to play, and is growing week to week in a lot of things that he's doing. Had some great reads coming downhill, making some plays in the backfield. But again, he's still growing and maturing and is never perfect. But I love his tenacity and the way he's playing and run to the ball, and he's still on teams and doing his thing there too. So I really like the maturation process of both those guys, and I'm excited to see how Cam continues to develop through this season and see if he gets some more opportunities throughout the year.
Right, Cam Lewis is a guy who's continuously stood out, and we heard his name the last couple of training camps, last couple of preseason. Obviously, we didn't have a preseason this year. And it's the reason he couldn't hit the field because the secondary is just too deep. I mean, this is a very deep secondary the last couple of years. It's, by no fault of his own, he's good, but so is the secondary and the guys in front of him.
Yeah.
I know people have a lot of questions about the defensive unit here in Buffalo right now. And I think it was week 2, week 3 when we did the show where you talked about it's not just Buffalo. It's the entire league. Do you think that offenses are getting the better of these defenses across the NFL as a whole because of the lack of, as Coach McDermott says, the lack of 500 reps that they missed during training camp and preseason? Does the offense have the upper hand right now against these defenses around the league?
I think so in some ways of just not because with defense is more is reactive, right? And so offenses aren't really, they already know what they're doing, they know where they're going, and so for me, and maybe I'm wrong in this, outside of quarterback, the learning curve isn't as hard for offenses as far as understanding what you got to do and where you got to be because you're not reacting. There are some read routes where, if it's cover 2, you're going to run down the middle of the field. The middle of the field is closed. You're going to hook up. But outside of quarterback, and I know receivers are hard transition, you don't really have to play with your eyes as much. You running your route, quarterback throws you the ball, and I'm oversimplifying this, and then you make the catch. Guys in front of you block the guy in front of you. Where defense is a lot of time, especially playing linebacker and corner and being able to communicate. You're going to cut routes, over routes with the safety, or you're going to cut, the second route with the corner and be able to communicate all that as linebackers, with all the zoom and jet motions. Are you bumping back? Do you see the tight end go behind the line? And if you go the wrong way and you have 2 guys in the gap, most guys are going to find that hole and hit it. And that's when you give up some of those big explosion plays. Learning how to play crack replace, having the right width so that you can contain the ball on a crack replace. You can talk through it, but you have to be able to go out there and do it. And it's week, I guess 6 now. And so some of those things should start ironing itself out, and teams, especially defenses, should start playing better. But it has been a league-wide issue because there's been a lot of points being put up all over the place. And unless you have like elite talent and then also elite offense, I think defenses have really been struggling for whatever reason that is. But I think that is because you miss a lot of that walk-through time where you can really break down and make sure where I'm at, where I need to be. But coaches have really been, pressed with, finding that balance of showing the guys, but also, hey, this is the game plan. This is what we got to do, and we got to move on because we got to be able to fit all these things in, all these situations, and we can't spend as much time as we normally would have on certain concepts as we would have in the past. So it's definitely hurt, but you got to adjust and you got to figure out a way to make plays because everybody's going through it. And so now you got to stand up. And so it's not like the defenses that the Bills play are overly complicated or what the system is crazy. At the end of the day, guys got to do their job and stand up and match with guys and make plays.
Well, they always say that the first 4 games of the season, your first quarter of the season, you want to get off to a fast start because after that first quarter is when your season really begins. You start getting into the nitty-gritty of your schedule, the meat of your schedule. Normally after that, the cohesion starts to pick up. Some teams have injury problems. Some teams start alleviating injury problems. So, Buffalo has a tough stretch coming up. We're going to get to those NFC West games. We're going to get to those AFC West games, and it's a lot of unfamiliarity in those games coming in. So we'll see how the boys respond. Sean McDermott, speaking of Sean McDermott, after some losses that you guys take in the past, how does he usually respond as a coach? What does he expect you guys to do to respond after a loss?
I think it's all about how we lose and what he sees and what he senses. where the guys, shut it down, where the guys continue to get sloppy. A lot of times he's a teacher, so he always likes to go back to the basics when we lose a game, especially in that fashion where the football really wasn't played well. And so he always likes to gets back to that process, And obviously last week the process was changed a little bit. And so I think he may be a little bit more understanding in a way of why they may have performed, because there was a significant shift in their process from week to week. But he always focuses on that more than the result, because even though this is a result-based business and the world we live in is result-based, if your process is flawed, you're going to lose more than you win. But if you have a great process, even when you lose, you can find, okay, this is why we lost. You're going to end up winning more times because you're putting guys in the best position to win games through your fundamentals, the way you practice, the way you guys game plan. And as long as you continue to make sure, revisiting that process to make sure it's the best way to put guys in the best position, more times than not, you're going to come out to be successful. And so that's where I think he mostly pays most of his attention to, understanding that, yes, wins and losses matter, but if your process isn't consistent, isn't sound, and isn't constantly revisited, you can get away from that, and then your season can get away from you, and you can kind of spiral a little bit. And so just kind of knowing who he is and what he's done in the past, he's probably really revisiting the process of their week, getting back to the fundamentals and making sure they're executing so they can come out here and not beat themselves, which he always preaches, not beating yourselves, with the turnovers, with the mental errors, with the lack of awareness of situational football, all those little things that add up to be really big things in the grand scheme of things when you're trying to win a game.
Right. And guys, before we continue on to this Chiefs game, because this is a big matchup, I mean, as a football fan, you have to just love this matchup coming up. Make sure you guys are getting to www.lorenzoalexander.org to check out everything that's going on with Lorenzo's Aces Foundation. Got a lot of great causes, a lot of things going in the community. Obviously, things have slowed down a little bit due to the pandemic, but I'm pretty sure once we get past this, and we will get past this, Lorenzo will be all over the place, Buffalo, Oakland, Washington, all over the place, doing things inside the community. So make sure you get over there and check out everything that he's doing. And also, do not forget that if you cannot watch this live, and no lie, you guys have kids are up at night, you got to go to work. We are now on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, anywhere type of podcast you can find. In the link of the show, click and subscribe, and make sure you listen while you're at work or at the gym or convenient, or even in the car in traffic if you're not. If you are. But, Zoe, we got a big matchup coming up this week. Now, we've heard for the last year of the Mahomes versus Allen throw off. I think it's eventually going to happen this offseason. I think he'll do something for charity. These two quarterbacks are playing at MVP level. One is not surprising to Patrick Mahomes, and one has surprised a lot of the media members, not so much yourself and not so much me. But this is a big-time matchup early in the season. Both teams got the first 5 games out the way. You're coming to Buffalo. Unfortunately, there's no fans because we know how the Ralph will be rocking.
Right.
What are you thinking about this matchup, especially after actually both teams are coming off a loss?
Yeah, both teams. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously everybody's trying to get that nasty taste out of their mouth. So people are going to want to be able to bring their A game. Both these guys are ultimate competitors, and not that they don't play against each other. I mean, physically, it's not like they ever match up and go against each other, but they're going to actually, try to go out there and light the thing up. They understand what their play means to their teams. And I think both these teams, kind of like where they're at, are very mirrored in the sense that the defenses haven't played great lately, and mainly because the offense has really been the reason why these teams have won this first, 4 games. And when the offense has really sputtered a little bit is when these teams have lost, because it's all about big plays, controlling the clock, running the ball, which both these teams were able to do in the first 4 games for the most part. And last game, both teams' defense was on the field a lot longer, gave up some big plays, and found themselves losing the game. And so it's going to be interesting. Those first 2 or 3 drives are going to be really interesting. Andy Reid is always going to come in here with a great game plan with that first 15. He probably had the best first 15 in NFL history. I've competed against him on several different teams, and the first 15 always has you all over the place trying to get you discombobulated and really thinking, and then they take advantage as they really fit into their game plan. But I expect the same from Dable. He's done a great job as well over the years, being able to game plan and take advantage of matchups, make you see some things, make you try to adjust to what they're doing as well. And so it's definitely going to be an intriguing game. And again, it's going to come down to a few things. I think turnovers will be one. And then just how you limiting their big plays, because both teams have big play potential when you think about their receivers, their playmakers, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins. Obviously, on the Bills side, you got Diggs, Gabriel, Brown. Hopefully he's back and healthy and practicing this week. And so it's a lot of weapons out there. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. And whatever defense is able to probably create the most turnovers, but also make the teams kick field goals when they get down in the red zone is going to come out victorious in this one.
Right. It's almost each one of these teams have been almost a walking 30 points so far in this game. Like I said, as a pure football fan, I'm a Bills fan first, foremost, football fan second. This is a matchup that you like to see. As a competitor, you want to see it. Tyreek Hill, speaking of big plays, this is a guy that you got to keep an eye on. How do you play Tyreek Hill? How do you coach it to get ready for Tyreek Hill? I mean, this is world-class speed.
Yeah. He's one of the guys that always put fear in my heart. I mean, I still remember a play on kickoff. Where was I at? Was I here or was I in Oakland? It might have been here when we played them in 17, Sean's first year. The dude's stop-start is even more scary than me. Straight line speed is one thing because you can kind of gauge that. Okay, I got to take this angle to cut him off and, kind of figure it out. But man, the cheetahs, the cheetah, he get to that 0 to 60 like real quick. It ain't slow. It's like right now. And that's the thing that scares me about him. Very shifty. Obviously, he's really coming to his own and is even taking his game beyond being a great returner. And so it's going to be a guy that you really have to look at and see where he's at all times. And, you really probably want to study the Bill Belichick game plan and really how he's probably disrupted him and taken him away from Patrick Mahomes and giving him some fits. And so those are some of the things that you probably want to look at, especially when you get to the third downs and the guys that he's really looking up and how other teams that have slowed him down have attacked him. But this is not a team where you can have any mental mishaps, no miscommunication, because one misstep, I thought you said this, and you giving up a touchdown, a big time touchdown to a guy that can get behind you at any time, and that's for Kelce too, or Sammy Watkins, and because Pat Mahomes is going to find him, whether he has to extend some time backing up or escaping outside of the pocket, he's going to find those guys if you make a mistake. And so even like the D line, I think is going to be really important as far as just keeping Pat in the pocket as much as possible and not allowing him to extend plays because he can throw the ball from anywhere, any arm angle. And so just being relentless and really trying to make him feel flustered at some point.
I mean, the arm angles are just insane. I mean, some of the angles he throws this ball from. I mean, it's just you could tell he was a baseball player. Yeah, right. I mean, you could tell he's a baseball player. He's like underhand and sidearms and pitches, And if people have not heard today, late this afternoon, we're all on LeVeon Bell watch for the majority of this day, and he did sign with the Kansas City Chiefs today. I don't know the details of the new contract. I'm not sure if he's actually going to be eligible to play in this game, specifically because of the new protocols. I know he's going to have to have 2 negative tests, and I mean, I don't know how hard the playbook is going to be able to get into. You can probably get more detail on that. I mean, this is midweek.
Yeah, midweek. He probably had a test today, test tomorrow. If he's both positive, he can be in the building. What is that, Friday? Nope, Saturday?
Yeah. Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know if you roll him out there. Maybe you have like something real simple, like run left, run right type plays, or like a screen, something that's not overly complicated. he's not going to have the whole playbook. So maybe, knowing Andy Reid, he's like, hey, here are the 4 or 5 plays I want to give you during the game. These concepts, here they are, do this. And so a guy that's been in the league as long as he has can handle a small package and go in there and understand what he's going to do. Because, again, it's not like he's making adjustments like a defender would have to. Like if they do, this is a check, you got to communicate. They can even tell him before the snap, hey, we running, I'm just going to say 34 wedge. Not that it's a play. But when we run a 34 wedge, these are your steps. This is what you're looking at. Go do it. And then he can get out there and figure out a way. So it'd be interesting if he does play. I don't know if he's needed. The running back they have right now is pretty nice. I really like him, the young guy, 25. I can't think of his what's his name?
Hilaire, the rookie?
Hilaire, yeah. So I don't know if they need him right now. This might be like one of those picks that you add depth and another dynamic to your game that's going to maybe help you out. And so they may not feel like because he hasn't been out there working with that chemistry that they need to put him out there right now this quickly.
This defense, Chiefs defense, they're not an elite unit. They're not the top of the league in statistics. They hadn't been in the top of the league statistics. But they always remind me of the old Bill Belichick Patriots defense in the early to mid 2000s, where they weren't a top 5, top 10. They were around the top 15, maybe even bottom 15, but they were very opportunistic. And you have a couple players on that side of the ball where it's Anthony Hitchens, the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, and a guy who can honestly just disrupt your game plan, and a Chris Jones, who I absolutely love.
Right.
I mean, this guy's a football player. Who's the one? I mean, don't worry, you have to watch all of them, but who's the one that could really wreck this Bills game plan going into this game?
Chris Jones. I mean, he's dynamic. He can rush the passer at a high level, plays the run fairly well. He's your all-pro player up front. I mean, he can do a lot of things really well. And the most impactful spot to really impact any quarterback is right in their face, right up the middle. That's why Aaron Donald is so impactful. Because even when he doesn't necessarily sack you, he makes you step left, makes you step right. You can't step up what most quarterbacks like to do to really, put your arm into it and throw it. So a lot of times when he's getting pressure, you feel like you're backing straight up. And so that's really disheartening. And that's, the great ones, if you're able to create pressure right in their face, it can disrupt the game. And so I think Honey Badger, he benefits a lot of that pressure up front, be able to get some balls. But he also is another guy that you always got to know where he's at. I played with him in Arizona, got a lot of respect for him. He has that it factor where he just finds himself around balls. And you even saw when he was back in LSU and it's never left him, where he's picking things up. He's always around fumbles, picking, scooping, and scoring, and, intercept things. The ball finds him some way, somehow. And he capitalizes. There's not too many times where he misses out on those opportunities. So those are kind of my 2 guys who you always got to watch flying around, making plays, because those are ultimate disruptors and game changers that can really, change the momentum and put their team in a very advantageous spot to win games.
Right. And so we have our fan question of the week here. Guy Diver just sent it in from Dylan Zutel. And Dylan asks, Lorenzo, what do you feel is different about the Bills defense this year from last year? Is it leadership? Is it injuries? Or is it effort? What do you feel the difference is?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not in that locker room, so it's kind of hard to put my finger on it. Is it a lack of leadership or accountability? Knowing the men that I know that are in that locker room, I would say that's not it. Because obviously I'm not in there, but they're, from Tremaine to Matt to Micah to Jordan to Jerry, they're not afraid to make sure guys are accountable and playing at a certain level. They're not afraid to get guys faced. They're not afraid to mention it to somebody to make sure guys are playing at a certain level. When I turn the film on, I don't see guys loafing and not running to the ball. There is or has been a lot of lack of continuity. You think about especially like the front 4, the guys, Shaq, Jordan Phillips, Star opting out, and now you insert 4 guys, Quentin Jefferson, you got Harrison Phillips coming back off of an injury who didn't play a significant amount of snaps last year. I know that's another D tackle, but there's a lot of moving parts just there with new guys that really haven't had a lot of time to grow and know each other from run gaps, and then also from a pass rusher standpoint. And then the second level, Tremaine and Matt have been banged up, beat up. We've kind of been in and out of the lineup, and so there's been no consistency there. And then even on the back end, I mean, Tre'Davious didn't play last week, been hurt. You lose Levi's been hurt in and out. Josh Norman missed the first 3 weeks of the season. So I mean, he's not going to be at peak form because he was having a really great training camp, and so that's 3 weeks of not playing football. Cam Lewis had a great game, but he's young, and so there just hasn't been a lot of continuity. And every year, you have to redefine yourself, because even if you have most of the same parts, you're never the same as the year before. And so they have to figure out, I guess, who they are, who they want to be week in and week out. And they all get this thing right. I mean, I believe in Leslie Frazier. I believe in their coaching staff as well as Sean McDermott. And they're not that far off from being who they want to be. But that's the league. It's a game of inches, and I know that's cliche, but it's really truth. I mean, you could be out of your gap a hair, and these elite backs are going to find it. You could be a step slow on your man-to-man coverage or take one bad false step. These elite receivers, you give them some room, they're going to catch the rock. And so it's all these little things that they haven't executed on consistently and collectively for 4 quarters throughout a game. And so if they want to go where they want to go, they have to start showing those things up and minimizing those errors. And that's something I think we were able to do last year. And then I think they just need somebody that's out there just flying around hitting cats too. Sometimes you need a little bit of that, which I know Poyer is trying to do, Tyrell is trying to do. And so you got to rally guys and kind of, hey, we got to step this thing up and try to figure out to be greater than the sum of our parts. And a lot of times it only takes one guy to kind of create that where he's flying around and everybody else look like they're not quite moving as fast. And when you turn that film on, it's like, man, you got to play like this dude, So whether that's Tyrell or Tremaine, which I thought was flying around last game pretty well, guys have to step their game up and do those things collectively and have to do it for 4 quarters.
Jordan Poyer is a very underrated tackler. This is a guy who I believe he's had over 100 tackles the last 3 seasons. Very underrated at what he can do as far as helping win the stop in the run game. Because I think it's because he makes so many plays in the passing game that we overlook. He's in
that box now. He's like a glorified linebacker. That's my guy. I was talking to him. I say, yeah, man, you see you playing linebacker, man. You might want to do this, be a little bit better, because even though he is a great tackler, he's not afraid to throw his nose in there. But just seeing him taking on the fullback or the tight ends, the H-back in the last game, it was kind of fun to watch. A DB try to go in there and throw his head in there. But one thing JP is not, he is not passive. Anytime he go in there, he's going to give all of himself. And so that's why I have so much respect for him. But yeah, like to your point, great tackler. It's one of those guys I think that can be a catalyst by the way he plays, flying around. And then just being boisterous about it. Hey, guys, man, you see me? I'm out here flying around, giving my body up, man. We need to step this thing up. Let's do it.
Right. I got a feeling these guys are going to respond. I really do. I don't think it's a lack of leadership. Like I said, if Coach McDermott says that it's a lack of reps, I've trusted the process since he got here, and the process ain't steered us wrong yet. So if he says it's reps, I'm going to believe it's reps. We actually had a very good comment from one of our viewers here, Debbie Frontera. She said, she's answering Brandon Bell's question about was LeVeon Bell eligible to play. And she said he's required at least 5 days of testing before he can play. So thank you for that excellent tidbit.
Right. Yeah, and I know that. I know there's a caveat because he was in, and maybe they changed it because before, and these protocols are forever evolving, and probably because of the Tennessee Titans, they probably did change it. But before, if you were already on a team and already in the protocol, if you were going straight from there to your new team and didn't go home and was out for a while, you didn't have the same length of time that you were held to. And that may have changed because I know Jordan Phillips had an issue this week as well because it was his father's funeral here in Arizona, which he was trying to figure out how could he go to his funeral and then play Monday night because they play the Dallas Cowboys. And I think they found a solution for him. So I don't know completely. Maybe she's completely correct.
Yeah.
But I know there are some exceptions and caveats within the protocols themselves.
Right. And as things further change in this country with everything that's going on, obviously nothing's set in stone as we've seen. I mean, we have a Monday game at 5 p.m. So, I mean, go figure. But, hey, Zoe, I think it's about that time. Kansas City Chiefs, big game in Buffalo. Got both teams come off a loss. What's your 3 keys to the game?
Well, I'm just going to start with the defense because I think it's going to come down to that. They have to be able to, I think, generate a couple of turnovers. You have to be able to take the ball away from Patrick Mahomes, whether that's forced fumbles, getting to the quarterback, somebody stripping one of the running backs, receivers, obviously maybe picking him off, which is hard to do because he's very accurate. But you have to win the turnover battle this week. And if it's even, and if it's a negative, as far as the Bills being -1 or 2. I see the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game. So they have to win there. And I would say have to be at least a +1 in that category. Number 2 would have to be minimize the big play. Make them earn every single yard they get. Don't give up any big 60, 70-yard plays. The goal, I believe, is like 4 or 5. You really want, and in a game like this, you want to give, maybe 1. Maybe 1. Keep everything in front of you. Make them earn everything and make them be impatient and maybe give you something, like I said, maybe a pick, get impatient. I think that would be number 2. And I think, number 3 for the offense, they have to get back to their rhythm. They have to execute. I think last week it wasn't an issue of not having opportunity. It was a lack of execution, so Josh being on time with the ball, putting the ball where it needs to be, guys making a play for him, which I think they've done up until last week. And so some of the tips that turned into interceptions, some of the drop balls that, the ball might not have been perfect, but are very catchable for the guys and the caliber of talent that these guys have. And so just executing and making them earn anything they get from a defensive standpoint. Don't throw any ill-advised interceptions. Make them earn everything they have. So if you don't have a shot, check it down. Let Devin or whoever, TJ, check it down. Get your 5 to 6 the next down. And so I would say that win the turnover battle, minimize the big plays, and then execute at a high level on offense. Not beating yourself, with the penalties and some of the things that are self-inflicted.
There it is, folks. Those 3 keys to the game. Hopefully the Bills could come out of this game with a win. It is a big ball game. Probably, I would say one of the biggest regular season games we've had in the last couple of years, besides that Ravens game last year at home. So, I mean, maybe these guys could take something from that Ravens game as far as to fill in and go into that big game and bring it over. So, I mean, that's it, man. I mean, we got nothing left to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I know. It's always a good time. Before I get out of here, every week I'm gonna do this because I just got my ballot in the mail, so I know people are starting to get their ballots. So make sure you do your homework. Take 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. Go through those categories because there's a ton of them. From state representatives to Congress, obviously presidential. Then you got all these judges on the list, and then you have some low propositions. Do your homework. It doesn't take that much time to at least get you an understanding of who you want to vote for and allow your voice to be heard and to continue to apply pressure. And just don't be a finger pointer and complainer, but be a part of the solution. And then once you do that, hold your people accountable. Obviously continue to serve and love your community as well. And stay safe out there. God bless.
Yes, please stay safe. Zoe, once again, great show. We'll be back next Thursday, hopefully with a better result from this game on Monday night or Monday afternoon at 5 p.m. And guys, like I said, like Zoe said, please get out there, vote, do your research. We know you got time. Everything ain't open yet. So we know you got time to get out there and do some research now, okay?
Yeah.
But other than that, as always, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Make sure you're following us on Spotify, iTunes, all the podcast sites to listen to it while you're at work or in the gym. And make sure you're getting over to www.lorenzoalexander.org to check out all things to keep up with Lorenzo's doing. Other than that, guys, we're out of here. Great show, Zoe. Catch you next week. Everybody have a very good night.